Here's a surefire way of staying in financial mediocrity. That is, when you are a consultant, you go from gig to gig. You just sign up to a project, you work on that project, and then once it's over, you then start looking for the next one. You network, you just make sure that your name is in the market, you contact the right people, and maybe you already, if you are perspicacious, you do that right from when the project is about to conclude. Let's say 1 or 2 months before the end of the project, you start putting out your feelers and see what's next. Well, it's not a good recipe to build a business. It's not a good recipe for financial freedom, because there's only so many hours in the day, and you are selling your hours in the day, and there is no plan of how you can ever scale this, because you are treating yourself as a freelancer rather than as a business owner. There's a really crucial difference here. I just had somebody on the phone on Zoom, and I was inviting him to join the Alpha Lead Academy, which is our training program. We help consultants to build scalable client acquisition systems and stop being dependent on referrals. And he politely declined, saying that he just signed a major client, and so that will keep him busy for the next 8 to 10 months. And so he doesn't need anything like what we do. And so I asked him, okay, and so when this project will conclude, then what are you going to do then? And he cheerily said, well, I'm then going to start putting my feelers out again and see what's next. And I asked, and when you do that, then maybe a couple of months after you will get the next project, then were you going to be working on the next project? Yeah, sure. Or maybe a referral comes in. Okay, great. And he was like perfectly happy about that. So I asked him, like, don't you want to like make considerably more money? Like, we're talking $500,000, $1 million. He says, yeah, sure. I want to hire people, but I currently cannot afford that. And I asked him, like, do you think you will be able to afford that if you keep doing this? Because what if the next project is many months away between these, once you conclude project number 1? And didn't really have a good answer for that. But at some point, I also could feel that he was getting annoyed by my questions. And I just felt there's not enough pain that could be amplified. And so I stopped the questioning. And the lesson for me is that this was clearly somebody who is looking at himself as a freelancer, as a hired hand, as somebody who sells their time by the hour or by day, which is not conducive for you to build a really scalable business, like a consulting business, anything where you could pretty much in 5, 6, 7 years have so much money that you can retire, right? This is always going to be effectively a job, and you're going from job to job only without the perks of being formally employed, right? It's just basically you're a job candidate. And so I think this is simply part of a mindset that is all about being a freelancer rather than a business owner. And when you are a business owner, you don't stop activities only because something else happens. There are departments in a business, and these departments do their thing all the while service delivery is happening. So when you have a consulting firm of 20 people, or let's say a law firm or anything like that, say 20 people, and there's one person who does marketing, one person does HR, one does operations, and whatever, somebody does some recruiting maybe. That's usually the makeup of small services firms. They have these people in place who don't just stop work when things get busy on the consultant side or on the lawyer side. They just continue working even though it gets very busy. They don't suddenly switch from being marketers or HR people and suddenly switch to being consultants and doing client delivery. It just doesn't happen. These people continue working. And this kind of mindset you can have if you are still a one-man or one-woman band. You actually should have that. Why? Because it forces you to identify activities in your client delivery that you can outsource. And you should outsource that. You cannot tell me that there are not some activities when you are serving a consulting client that you could not outsource to somebody. Maybe it has to be a junior person who you hire by the hour in your local geography, or it can be somebody, and I strongly recommend that. I found terrific people in the Philippines, for example, who are, of course, cheaper than they charge way less per hour than somebody locally. And you can get a lot of stuff done if you know how to delegate and outsource properly. It does not only just have to be data, sorting or doing menial tasks. These are simply those are professionals, and you can hire them to do pretty qualified work. And so that is the first step to identify if you are so busy that you cannot do regular marketing, for example, at least putting out some regular content, and you are so busy you cannot do that. Well, there must be things that you can do in your client delivery that you can afford to do that. And if not, then are you actually doing high value enough activities that you can build up a small financial reserve that allow you to hire somebody half-time to at least help you on the marketing side, to edit your videos, to draft your content that you then will look over. But anything, there must be some time allocated to marketing that you do all the time. You don't just do it when you need clients, because that way, if you do that marketing constantly, if you're out there, then suddenly more people will come to you, you will get more referrals, and there will come a point where you will be so booked out and you will have built up enough of a cash reserve, because those times between projects are not there anymore. There is no more between projects. There are only projects kind of flowing into each other and overlapping. Once you get to that point, that is when you can hire somebody. This is what the person I spoke to, in my humble opinion, should do. Rather, that you just for a couple of months, yes, you work a lot, right? You just have to do your marketing. You have to do some outreach, regularly booking sales calls, which also gives you so much peace of mind. You know that you can actually book sales calls when you need them. That's best done by, some smart doing outbound and also content, so that you get some fodder for the inbound traffic that's coming your way. And so once you do that, you will then be so busy for a time, yes, that then you can finally apply a little bit of leverage where you just hire somebody maybe half-time, a junior person, smart student, or somebody who's been in the workforce for a while, and you teach them the ropes. They start delivering. There will then come a time where you can actually hand over 80% of the client delivery to that person. That is when you're starting to build a consulting firm, but not before. You cannot say, well, yeah, I don't have the cash now to hire somebody, so I'm just going to just do projects and not do any marketing, right? They have this business owner mindset where every activity has its allocated time. Let's say you say marketing, I just have to do 8 hours of marketing and sales and outreach per week. No matter what happens, I can maybe pre-produce some content, and it's a very good idea to have some content in the can, so that if things get so busy that you cannot produce new content, for example, that's when you can fall back on what you have pre-produced. It's not a wise choice to simply go through life from project to project. You will never scale that way, right? You gain experience, so maybe gradually you can increase your rate at a higher rate than inflation rises, but it's not going to be enough. You will never get to a point of 3, 4, 500,000 a year, and that is when things start becoming really interesting. That's when you can really hire someone. You can take time off to just build systems. You can take time off from delivery to build some systems. You can build some products, some scalable product packages, and so on. You cannot do that when you go from project to project. My message for today: try to see if there's ways how you could sort of carve out your client delivery activity, hand it over to somebody more junior, and then dedicate your time to marketing and sales. It is a CEO activity. Especially in the beginning, you need to be doing this. There's no point in hiring an agency when you're a solopreneur and hiring an agency and doing everything for you, because you don't know the ropes yet. You don't know if the marketing agency will deliver what they say they will deliver. So I strongly recommend you get some good coaching initially from someone who actually can do this. And I know this sounds self-serving, it doesn't have to be me, but make sure that you actually learn B2B marketing and sales, and then just execute and do it regularly, so that you never get into that situation where you're between projects and, oh my God, where's my next gig going to come from? That's a recipe for financial mediocrity, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone.